Hello, an episode to another.
Keep it. Let's keep rolling.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dumb and Dumbest podcast. You just heard me fuck up our intro terribly, and that's right in line with our theme that everything is terrible and the house is on fire.
Yes, I love it.
Thank you for coming and listening. This is the second episode we've recorded today. After this, I've got to go fuck around with big cartel backend stuff and Facebook advertisements for hours and hours. So
I got a bunch of work to do still as well because I'm taking Sunday and Monday off, and that means that I'm going to get backlogged. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Off days are for the week.
Well, I got family coming to town who are from the other side of the country. So
yes, and this is something important I want to share before you hire Curtis. Curtis hasn't talked to his mother in how long?
A couple months.
Disgusting. Anyway, and he doesn't hate her or anything.
No, not at all.
Anyway, on today's episode, we were going to talk about
Twitter.
I was hoping you'd say that with a little more elegance, but I guess that's what happens when you.
I took a swig of a drink straight before you called me out. So
anyway, irregardless,
I'll burp it out next time you ask me to do something.
What was the main Twitter topic you wanted to kind of address today, Mr. Dewar?
Well, we've talked about this before, but what always seems to happen is that anytime I talk about Twitter, people seem to find it interesting. I don't know why, because to me it seems like it's an easy platform to master, but judging by some people like Matt Bacon, 666, who barely ever goes on the platform, it's apparently a difficult subject to master. So, but I've made so many contacts by using Twitter. I would like to see more people get on the platform, and I would like to evangelize it on this episode if possible.
Right. So, I guess, A, what is the appeal of Twitter? And B, I mean, we've talked about how to use it. Fundamentally, what is the appeal of Twitter to you, first and foremost?
You get to hear stuff in real time as it happens. You get to check out people's opinions. You can do polling in real time. It's a PR machine. Again, like we mentioned, like it's been mentioned a million times before, one of the reasons why Donald Trump won the U.S. election is because he's a Twitter fiend. He posts every day, all the time.
Yeah.
Like him or don't like him.
One thing I've read a lot about Twitter is that Twitter actually has the most educated base of any major social media platform.
I don't know if that's true, judging by some of the tweets you'll see on there, but maybe.
I don't know, man. Point being, what's interesting to me about Twitter is how Twitter has sort of become like this weird subsection of the internet, almost like Reddit in a way.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Like Reddit, I don't understand, but it is kind of similar, I think, in that regard, yeah.
Yeah, see, whereas I really understand Reddit, and I'm not known on music Reddit, but I'm known on Star Trek Reddit.
Like conspiracy theory Reddit, like the Alex Jones section of
it. I just said Star Trek Reddit.
So like the Alex Jones section of it.
I'm not active on the Alex Jones section.
Just kidding.
Point being, how do you build around yourself
on Twitter?
Yes.
Well, I can't really say, I don't really want to say I built around myself because I wouldn't consider myself, I do pretty good for myself. I mean, I've only got about 1,200 followers, 1,200 followers, but I only follow about 400 people. Most PRs, you're going to see them with 3,000, 4,000 followers, but they're actually following 4,000, 5,000 themselves, right? So right. According to that measurement rate there, that should indicate that I should know what I'm talking about somewhat compared to a lot of other PRs. But the appeal of it is the fact that you can ask people questions in real time, get an answer fairly quickly. You can hold a whole conversation with multiple people in real time about different topics. Like, for example, I do multiple polls a month, and I get a lot of great information from those polls. And a lot of the information comes from journalists or from musicians, which are both my target audience, right? And I can use that information for my own knowledge for campaigns or for knowing how to pitch different people, right?
Yeah.
So it's fantastic when you use it as a tool. When you use it just as a self-promotion engine,
doesn't work.
Well, it can. Like, I do share links on there. I stopped sharing links for a long time on Twitter, but I revived it about a month and a half ago just to test to see how it would go. I'm getting quite a few shares off those, so I've resumed sharing all links on Twitter. But the thing is that you want to use it to build relationships is probably the wrong word, but it kind of is the right word. You want to kind of use it to build conversations with people.
Right. That's the key.
Yeah. Like, I found lots of clients on Twitter just by accident. Like, for instance, Julio Rave, the lead, I met on Twitter. I was listening to his music when I was a kid, and he ended up becoming a client. All Fathers, another example. Void Ritual. This was just from talking to them and getting to know them prior, right? So it's a tool to discuss music with people, discuss movies, whatever you want to discuss, and then it can actually lead into something further down the line, right?
So you have a pretty clear product you're selling, right?
Yeah.
How is a band going to use Twitter effectively then?
Exact same way, because, like, here's a couple good examples. I'm not going to use All Father again. One really good example is Twilight Fauna. Paul from Twilight Fauna. He's been on Twitter probably almost as long as I have, and he has built up so many relationships with people. And when he makes an album, like, he's an independent artist, and then he gets himself onto Noisy, he gets himself into all these major publications, and he sells a lot of copies of albums. And he's just a guy, and he records in his apartment or his house or whatever, right? So what he did is he talks to people, but he also will share his links and say, I have this for sale, right? And he puts his band info in his bio, and he isn't shy about who he is, but he's kind of low key selling, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So as a band, like for him, for example, by him being on that platform and taking the time every day to talk to people on it, he's being basically a salesperson for his music, even though he probably would hate to hear me say that, you know. Same thing with Void Ritual. Dan Jackson's another great example. Those are two black metal guys that have just done fantastic jobs at creating an audience just by being on Twitter and being low key about selling, but still selling themselves at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Go elaborate.
Well, like, they don't hide the fact that they're in a band, but they're not sitting there 24/7 saying buy my shit like a lot of people will do. You know, yeah. They'll share the fact that they have a new album out. They might tweet about it a few times, but the reason why people are engaged with them and will share their tweets when they're selling something or actually go buy things is because they've actually had conversations with them prior to doing that. It's what Gary Vee calls the right hook or whatever it is, right?
Jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah. I haven't read that book in 6 years, so I could be mistaken in the way he phrases it, but they do the little jabs, like they'll talk, and then they throw the right hook of the buy my stuff eventually, right? So, and it works really well for them. And they probably have, I don't know if they're strategically doing it, if they're just accidentally doing it, I'm not sure, but it's working for them.
Well, I think that most people realize that if you create a network around what you're doing, people are going to be interested.
Totally. But I mean, I don't know if they've like plotted it out as like an actual strategy or not. Maybe they have. I have no idea. But either way, they know what they're doing with the platform, and they do it extremely well. So if you ever want to see an account to follow, if you ever want to follow an account to know how to sell on Twitter, Void Ritual, Twilight Fauna, All Father are three of the tops.
Void Ritual is signed to Tridroid Records, right?
He no longer is. Or I don't think he is still. The last one didn't come out on there. The one I did with him a lot recently was self-released.
Gotcha. Well, Tridroid was taking a break.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I didn't know how we wanted to phrase what happened there.
Tridroid was taking a break.
Yeah. On hiatus, break, whatever. But anyways, yeah, but Dan even got signed to Tridroid, I believe, as a result of talking to Christine on Twitter. Might have been through an intro from me, but I'm pretty sure that they got to know each other on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I guess another question, because I can explain this to bands. I'm not interested in Twitter for a variety of reasons, personally. But I guess sort of the important, although I know I should be there more.
Mm-hmm.
One thing a lot of bands ask me about it is how do you, if you're Void Ritual, how do you find Christine?
Well, you know how Dan, just by talking to her. Like, you want to know how me and Dan...
How do you find that person?
Well, you got to keep going with it. Like, you got to locate, like, I'll tell you the story about Void Ritual. He actually got his first album put out basically after meeting me on Twitter. I think I hooked him up. I think it was with, I can't remember which label it was. It might have been the original Tridroid when Andrew was alive, but I'm pretty sure it was 4 or 5 years ago, so my memory's not that great on it. But anyways, and then that was as a result of talking to me on Twitter. Because he was talking to me back and forth, and he had in his bio Void Ritual. Went and clicked on it and went, holy fuck, this is really good. You know? But he just commented on a post of mine at first, and I commented back, and we started talking back and forth, and eventually I just got to the point where I clicked on his link.
Right.
So it's sometimes a long-term strategy, right? But it works. And then right after that, he ends up signing, after putting out his first album with Tridroid, he ends up then putting out another one with it was the one that Barry Ann was running that label. And then, what's that?
Halo of Flies?
No, not Halo of Flies. I can't remember what the name of the label they were on, but
anyway,
he got signed with them, and then he ended up taking off after that because he kept getting into places like Metal Sucks as a result. And, you know, so that was just all came about from a Twitter conversation.
Right. And that's important to realize is that he
talked to me, and I'm not even, it was just because I had a connection at the time, and I introed him. He didn't ask me.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's another concern I frequently get when talking to mans about Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They bring up that they don't like how politicized it is and that it feels kind of gatekeepery.
You just ignore that part. That's what I do. I mean, all the political stuff, I just ignore it.
Yeah.
Once in a while, if it's something about Justin Trudeau, I'll join in on making fun of him. But other than that, I ignore it. I mean, there's no point. There's really no point. I mean, you're going to have, I don't understand it. And up here, it's nothing like it is there politically. Like, no one's going to fucking come after you if you're a member of the NDP party here, you know, and you're a liberal or anything like that. I don't understand the politics in the U.S. All I know is it's best to not get into it because people have these opinions on it and everyone else is wrong and they're the only ones that are right and everyone's a Nazi except for them. So I just stay out of it. And that's what I advise most bands to do. Unless you're like Neckbeard Death Camp or whatever the heck they're called, where that's their, you know, that's their thing. You know what I mean? I think that's their name, Neckbeard Death Camp. Is that right?
Neckbeard Death Camp, yes, sir. One of the finest examples of America.
Yeah, like with them, like that's their thing, is that they're political. So them getting into politics makes sense, right? So, but other than that, to me, it makes no sense for a band to get involved, start talking politically on Twitter. That's my own opinion on it, but
the general rule, in my eyes, is you are not as smart or as well-read as you think you are.
Well, exactly. And the other thing too is that there's no point in arguing with people on Twitter because no one's going to win. They're just going to think you're an idiot. The other person's always going to think you're an idiot, and that's just the way it is. Like, I've never seen a Twitter argument where someone else gets convinced of the person's opinion. It just doesn't happen. So there's no point. Unless you're doing it strategically for a certain reason, like I said, Neckbeard Death Camp does it. Power Trip, I think that's their name, Power Trip Thrash Band, they do it too. But that's their thing, is that they consider themselves to be political bands. So, you know, for them, it makes sense for them to be doing that on Twitter for, like, I don't know. For example, I don't know, Poison did it. It would make no sense. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure Bret Michaels does talk about politics, unfortunately.
I think the only thing he said that I've ever seen is that because he was on The Apprentice, right? And I think he just said that him and Donald were friends. I think that's as far as it went.
Huh. Anyway.
Gene Simmons said the same thing. So, but, I mean, I wouldn't call that political. They just, I was on a show. I like them.
Anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
Okay, so more with Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think that's important to realize that I think a lot of bands haven't necessarily gotten keen to is, as far as I understand, hashtags don't really matter on Twitter.
I've never found a use for them. I just haven't. I don't really see them being used. I've seen some social media courses I've taken where they claim hashtags are useful. I highly doubt it. I've never used them. I don't see many people using them. So I don't think it's a thing anymore on Twitter.
Yeah.
But you know how, but here's the thing: is you don't really need. I mean, there are hashtags on Twitter, like things will trend, right? But as a general rule for like metal and stuff like that, you don't need to use hashtags, right? Like for genre tags, like you do in Instagram. But what Twitter is good for is if you have a genre or something you're trying to engage with people about, you can use the Twitter search feature to find conversations about it. It's a powerful tool. I'll find placements on there all the time, like media stuff that I've missed on the on blogs and stuff by just going to Twitter and finding a tweet about the band that I'm working with, right? And then you can also engage with that person, say thank you for the review, great review, or whatever you want to say, right? And that engages you with the reviewer, or if it was a fan, like Radiant Knife figured that out not too long ago, that they can actually talk to people that are, listening to their album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the barrier of entry for Twitter is much lower, and also the barrier for like communicating with people.
It's way
Like,
lower.
I remember being 19 and getting a band in NPR because I tweeted at someone.
There you go. I don't think that's going to happen as much anymore, but yeah. I mean, like you could probably follow Lars Gottrich and then talk to him. You know what I mean? I've done it.
Yeah. And like full, clarification, like when I got that guy in, like Yusef Komanyaka, who's like a Nobel Prize winner, was involved. So it's not like, it's not like this guy just out of the blue was like, oh yeah, but still.
Yeah, it's not hard. Like it's pretty easy to communicate with most people on Twitter.
Look at fucking Ghostbath.
Huh?
Look at Ghostbath. That's literally a band who got big because they didn't even understand Twitter. That's the best part. Is like
I didn't even know they came from Twitter. That's the first time I've heard of it.
No, basically how they got attention was so they said they were from China because they didn't think anyone was going to take that seriously.
Yeah.
And they just didn't want to say where they were from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, which like fair enough. And then all they did was like tweet the album link they tweeted like a really positive review at some people.
Oh,
and suddenly, they're in all these places because, people were suddenly biting. Like it was different and it was interesting. And the barrier of entry to get, someone cool to write about you on Twitter is not high.
No, it's not. And another good example is, like if you make friends with journalists by constantly interacting with them on Twitter, a lot of times they will even cover you later. For example, when I was working with the Glorious Rebellion before they split up, Billy used to be on Twitter all the time. He stopped since he's become a comedian for some reason, but he used to tweet at people, like Kim from Noisy. He would tweet to what's his name from Decibel? I forget his name, Sean. And then there was all these other people that he would tweet to. What happened as a result? It was easy for me to get them coverage because all these people knew who they were already. You know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, I'd seen them on Twitter already, and it was easy to get for me to get people to check out their album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you're interacting with me, for example, Matt, with a certain band member on Twitter, you're more likely to check out their album if you're friends with them, correct?
Yeah, or if you're,
Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, Instagram DMs, guys.
But anyways, back to Twitter. Like if you're constantly talking to people and you're making friends with them, it's going to be a lot easier when the PR campaign hits for that PR person to get you into Metal Injection. If you've been dealing with a Metal Injection writer on Twitter for the last year on a friendly basis,
That being said, I want to clarify two things. A, even if you know a lot of journalists, like on Twitter, it's important, or on social media in general, it's still probably a good choice to get a PR person.
You have to, because here's the thing, is a lot of those people still need to go through an editor in order to get a review assigned to them. And the publicist helps with that, but they could also maybe, because of the fact that you got the publicist attached to you and the editor now puts the album into the review pool, that journalist will now be more likely to review your album. Yeah.
The other important thing to realize is that, so let's say you do have a bunch of friends on Twitter who are journalists. If you're a PR person, is claiming that they're the one getting you these results or not at least giving you credit, for like the relationships you'd built, then they're ripping you off.
Yeah, like I give full credit where credit is due. For like All Father, for example, has made my job a lot easier. Void Ritual too. But at the same time, we both do our thing.
No, of course. But what I'm saying, you and I both know PR companies where the band is a little bit connected just from having been a band and having been cool guys.
Yeah.
And the PR company is like, oh,
the
well,
NARC company? Is that what you called them? The NARC company?
No, I said the PR company.
Oh, I thought you said the NARC company. Anyways, go ahead.
The PR company comes around and says, oh, look at all these results I got you.
Yeah, and it might be somewhat true, but I mean, at the same time, a lot of times it's not. It's because of the band themselves.
Yeah. But again, you need to have a PR person, but make sure the PR person is aware and isn't trying to take credit for the relationships you spent the time building.
Yeah, there's one that starts with an E. I've been told that does that a lot. I don't have any first-hand experience with that, but
yes, regardless. So anyway, that's kind of what we had to share with regards to Twitter. Any final points before we do our wrapped up comments?
Well, I think Matt Bacon should be using Twitter a lot more, and he should be answering all the comments that I've sent his way about Ty Lopez over the last 3 months.
Okay, I think that you should realize Instagram is what I'm focusing on right now, and I'm very tired and sick.
Oh, I understand that, but I still think you should get onto it. But anyways, my main final point on it is you should be on Twitter. You should be using it. I think it's a powerful tool in order to help you make sales and make relationships and just for PR in general. And I also think you should be on Instagram at the same time. I do agree with that.
Okay, can I? Okay, actually, here. Let me raise a final problem with Twitter.
What's that?
And this is where it gets tricky, and this is a legitimate question.
Sure.
Okay, so Prophecy Productions is like a pretty grandiose label and how it sort of presents itself, right?
Yeah.
Like the music is, it's grandiose. It's our theme is dark and transcendental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, okay, which is all well and good. But this also means that we try not to interact, we try not to interact too much. Like I'll comment on stuff like on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and be like, "Oh, that's cool." Or like sharing the love, but I'm not really having conversations because people are already stoked that someone from the company is replying.
Yeah.
And it's more about just showing the love.
Well, what I would give as advice for Prophecy.
Yeah.
Just
how does a company like that do it? Yeah.
Well, number one, you guys, I'm assuming it's you running the Twitter page, huh?
I'm not doing anything on the Twitter, but technically, yes, I am running the Twitter
page. Okay, so let's say Matt Bacon is running the Twitter page for Prophecy Production. First thing I would do is I would take...
With our friend Andreas, who we love.
Okay, so let's say if I was Andreas or Matt Bacon, what I would do is my very first thing is I would go into the Twitter search function, and I would start searching for all mentions of any bands that we are currently pushing. Hellruner, Farsot, Cold World, Forest of Stars. I don't know who else you guys got. Those are the ones I'm running. Go in there, and I would minimally acknowledge the journalist who wrote those reviews and publications. Say thank you directly to them because there'll be a lot of links there that you guys have never seen.
Okay.
And I would also retweet them. That right there would probably build so much fucking goodwill. Just that action right there, be unbelievable.
There you go.
That's what I would do if I was Prophecy or a label or Ripple even.
This is why we're friends with Mr. Doer.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. So as we head towards the end, Curtis, what do you have to plug?
Oh, man, I've plugged a bunch of stuff already today, so I'm just going blank here. But I have today, Sunday, I think is what we're doing this on, or Monday, one of the two.
I think this runs Sunday.
Okay, so I'm blanking on what's coming out next week because I'm not near my computer. But today, Friday, we had released a couple things. We had Flummox Intellectual Hooliganism. I can't even say that word. Hooliganism was released today. They're kind of like Mr. Bungle. Buy the CD. It's awesome. All Fathers and All Will Be Desolation was just released today as well. Very awesome. They've already sold over 100 CDs, not including digital. Day one, they're like a number 11 on Bandcamp sales. Not sure if that's just metal or in general. Other than that, I also had 2 song premieres today. Hessian released a new song, I Wish I Was Dead, over at New Noise Magazine. Great band, kind of like traditional heavy metal, almost borderline stoner at times. And then we also had Anisoptera released a new song over at Subterranean. They're tech death. Check them both out. Hessian and Anisoptera both released their full albums next week as well. And that's what I got to promote other than my own stuff. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll pitch some of my stuff going on right now. We've got the Ripple Fest in Sweden happening, I think this weekend. So go to that if you're in Gothenburg. We've got
all 2 of you.
Yeah, all 2 of you in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we've got a whole mess of really cool releases coming up. One that, but more importantly, we have some stuff coming out around Desert Fest, where we've got a couple really cool U.S. bands. Zed are going to be in Europe for the first time, and I think there's a couple others who haven't been announced yet who'll be there. So, kind of a cool thing. Just something else to get hyped for. Ripple has really been pushing the Euro angle. And and then I think the day after this runs, y'all are going to be privy to. This is not a joke. I have 2 companies that'll probably be worth 7 figures launching next week. So so keep an eye out because good things are happening. And the Hazy Tones European tour got announced, which is cool because we are as far as I know, only North American DIY stoner rock booking agency to be booking stoner rock tours in Europe.
Everybody's going to be hitting you up. You know that now, right?
It's awful.
Yeah. You're going to have like every fucking stoner band that got rejected by Ripple fucking calling you up now.
Yeah. And guess what? I'm going to say no to pretty much all of you because I'm not in the business of losing money.
They're still going to hit you up.
I know.
Anyway. You're going to hit me up, go, can you introduce me to Matt? And we're like, no.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. This has been another episode of the Dumb and Dumbest podcast. Note our exciting new logo, which was made by a friend of Curtis's. Do you want to plug him real fast?
It's Billy. He used to be in the band The Glorious Rebellion, and now he runs his own company, which is now, the name is escaping me, which sucks because I would really like to plug him, so I'll have to remember what the name of the company is next time. Von Skull Media. That's the name of it. Von Skull. He's a great guy. Hit him up. I like him. He's my friend, and tell him I sent you, and he will be eternally grateful to me.
Yes.
And are we done yet?